So, Santiago, it's like I wanted you on this podcast, like first and foremost, just because like I really like you. You're one of those guys that, and then you're probably like this with a lot of people, but I don't really see you that often. We don't really spend that much time together. I mean, total hours, I don't know, maybe a dozen hours, but yet I feel like so close to you. I feel like I just am comfortable when I'm with you. You know, there's some people you spend a ton of time with and you're like, there's no real connection. But with you, there's just something there. You know, today was perfect. You know, you walk in the door, not only are you looking like you look, which is epic, but immediately you've got something unique. You start telling me about biometric mapping. But by the way, he also happens to be number 6 in the United States of America. I mean, I'm a realtor, which I don't even really want to talk about now because he is a realtor of another level. And your story is amazing. So instead of me regurgitating it all, talk a little bit about, so Santiago Arana, you came from Bolivia at 20 years old or something?
23.
23. Tell that story because that really just lights it up right there.
Sure. Well, first, thank you for having me here. Thank you for saying all these nice things. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I think we have so much in common. And I think that happens with people, right? I believe in energy. And I think that you either, connect with somebody and it's that, like you said, like you feel like you know that person more than you really do, but you actually do. And not so much with other people. So I feel the same way back at you. I love being here. I've been wanting to do this and I was excited. It was my highlight of the week.
Yeah, and I can't wait to make you lunch. We got some killer Chinese ribs.
Nice.
Stir-fried, little frisee salad with lardons and potatoes. That's going to be good.
Beautiful.
All right. So yeah, so tell that story. So you get here at 23 from Bolivia, speaking no English.
I told the story so many times.
I know.
Some of the listeners are not like, oh, the same story.
I know.
So
well, feel free to give another version if you prefer.
It's okay. So look, I mean, I'm 22. I graduated in Bolivia from a private university for business administration and marketing. Situation is very hectic in Bolivia. It's been since I was born, right? Go through different regimens of dictatorship and democracy, sort of democracy, and, it's crazy. And at that point, you can Google it in 2022, what happened with the president. I was working, I got out of the college and I immediately went to work for the National Institute of Statistics, which was like, I don't even know what I'm doing there, right? So I'm sitting there,
Sounds impressive.
I'm 22 and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled. I know that's not for me, but I'm thinking, oh, but this is what people do when they get out of school, you go and work and figure it out. And then one day I hear these bombs and shooting and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, what is this? I walk out and I'm like 2 blocks from where the government works and they're killing each other.
Jeez.
So
we don't have hard days here in the States. We are so spoiled. Like those people live like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's worse than that, right? I mean, think about Ukraine, think about Georgia, think about so many places. But anyway, we'll keep it light today. So I walked out and I'm like, what's going on? And the news is like the police force went to try to kill the president. They basically sort of like a coup situation. And they went in there and obviously the army first job is to defend the president, right? So the army came and they shoot each other and they kill over 100 people that day.
Wow.
So I called my dad. I'm like, look, maybe it's a good idea that I go study a master's degree, right? Let things settle here. And then I'll come back with one more thing in my resume. I don't like my job really. He's like, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So, and didn't your dad, I remember meeting him one time and we did the scribball thing together. Didn't he own like a chain of martial art studios or something?
No, he opened the first martial arts studios in Bolivia.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, so he opened them, he got him going, but then he became a politician and he stopped that. But yes, good memory. He still is the only 3rd degree black belt in Kyokushin in Bolivia because they don't take that test anymore.
Wow.
So it's like the highest level that you can get. And he keeps getting awards. And when the Japanese come to Bolivia, they call him and he goes.
Wow. That's so cool. It's Guian.
Yeah.
I got this.
So he says, he was a very steady, kind of nerdy guy. So when he was in the school, he studied a lot. He was very smart and he has like 5 master degrees, like 4 PhDs, and he was an engineer, right? So he went to Israel in a scholarship. And I know people think like, oh, so you're Jewish. I don't know. I don't think so. I was raised Catholic, but you start uncovering where you come from or whatever, who knows. But I'm not. But he won a scholarship to do a master's degree in Israel, something with engineer and ducts or some sort of planning stuff. And when he went there, I think he lived in a kibbutz, and he came up with some sort of valve or something that it was a great tool for them. So they were very grateful, and they were like, you have kids. And he said, I have a 1-year-old son. And they said, well, when he's old enough, we'd like to invite to pay for his studies and everything, like a scholarship.
Wow.
And he got stuck in his head, right? They didn't give him a paper. They didn't give him anything. So fast forward 21 years, I'm 22 now. And he goes, we should go to the Israel embassy. And, they told me this. And in my mind, I'm like, right. They're going to remember. Sure enough, we go there. He gives his name, his ID. They make us sit for half an hour. And I'm like, they come out. They're like, yeah, Mr. Arana, of course, come. We're going to go in the conference room. And they're like, yeah, we like to offer these other things. And there were one or two. They were mostly engineering, but they had one on finance, master degree in finance. And they offered to pay for the whole thing for me.
Wow.
Everything, housing, food, scholarship,
wow.
everything.
Your dad wasn't.
And I was like, I think that's a freaking great opportunity, right? And they're like, okay, so what are you going to take it in Hebrew or in English? And I went, oh, I don't speak a word of any of those. Zero. But when I say zero, like I couldn't go and buy a beer in English. Certainly not in Hebrew, right? So they looked at me and they see that I don't speak any of them. They're like, look, if you go and learn one of the two and you come back next year, we'll give it to you. So just go and learn one of the two. So then I go, okay, Hebrew, I'm not going to use as much in Bolivia. There's not that community where you can make a living or whatever because of that. And I said, English obviously is the language that everybody wants to learn. And I didn't pay attention in school. And that's why I don't speak it. And I wish I did. So that's what I decided to do. And then I go, if I'm going to learn English, I need to learn by immersion, right? If I go to classes, I'm going to come out, be with my friends, with my girlfriend, speak Spanish, this is not going to work, right? So I go to my mom, and I remember she had a cousin that she, twice a month, you'll talk with her. And I knew she was in America and all this. So I said, don't you have a cousin in the United States? And she's like, yeah, of course, my cousin Anna. And I go, do you think she would be okay if I go? Because at that point, my parents didn't have money.
Right.
I had, I think, $120.
Jeez.
So I was like, trying to find, how can I do this, right? So she calls her and she's like, yeah, sure, he can come and crash in my couch for 8 months. I'll give him breakfast, lunch and dinner, and a sofa for 8 months.
Isn't it amazing the kindness of one person can change your entire life?
Yeah.
A couch.
That's it.
Meals.
Which is, by the way, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people take for granted that.
Oh, of course.
So anyway, I come, and you couldn't tell me you're going to, I mean, not to put down any of the states or anything. And somewhere in the middle of the United States. Pick one,
you can say it, I get it.
Pick one, or you're going to Santa Barbara, California.
Good place to start.
For me, I didn't know. So she's like, because you don't speak English, I'm going to write a letter. And when you get to the airport in Miami, because you stop there, and you get to these guys, the immigration, they're tough. And when they know you don't speak the language, although they most speak Spanish.
Yeah, thank God.
They talk to you in English and they give you a hard time.
Wow.
So when you get there and they start asking you a question, show them the letter. And she wrote a short letter that was basically, my nephew's coming to visit. I'm going to be responsible for him. His time is staying in there. And here's my address. And I remember this big guy is looking at it and he's like, oh, Santa Barbara. Nice. And he lets me in. And I'm like, well, when did he say that? So I arrived to LAX at 2 a.m. I remember it was dark. I was tired. We drove to Santa Barbara, pitch black. So I don't know where I'm looking at. So I wake up the next day in the sofa and I look to the left just as far as this window. And I see the ocean there. I literally get up and I run to the ocean. And I was like so happy and so grateful.
How ironic. That's kind of where your plunging started.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
So, come here. Live there for 8 months. I run out of $120. I go to her and I'm like, hey, I want to go out tonight and look around. Can you give me some money for beers? Like, money for beers? Go get a job. And she was very tough, right? But I'm grateful that she was like that.
I love that.
Because I grew up in a different place, like back in the day when I was there, a lot of my friends, they got to live with their parents until they get married. Right? Even if you have a job, you're living with your parents.
Besides America, that's kind of normal.
You're saving money.
Yeah.
So you're with your parents, which is kind of nice that you get to enjoy your parents longer. I know there's mixed feelings on that, but that's how it works for the most part, right?
Yeah, most of the world, for sure.
So or do you have a housekeeper? All these things that, now I'm in my aunt's house. She's like, okay, tomorrow you need to clean the toilets.
I
You
like
gotta
your
take the trash out. You need to do all these things that I never did in my life. So it's like a crash course, tough hand to America.
Isn't that ironic though? You grew up, if I'm misstating, let me know. But if you grew up with not a ton of money, yet you had all those luxuries because that was just a normal part of the culture.
Exactly.
So that's ironic.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. It's different over there. Yeah. So, or it was different,
Right,
as you
right.
say. It's been 23 years. So I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to work? And she's like, well, you don't speak English. There's not much you can do. She's like, I will suggest to go and clean tables, be a busboy. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. At first,
and you had a degree at that point too.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then she's like, well, then this is the other option. Get in the car. And she drove me to outside Home Depot, a place in Santa Barbara called The Wall. We have mostly illegal people waiting for someone to call them, hey, come paint my house, come do this. It's like, you want to sit here and wait all day to get a job? Then you can do that. I was like, okay, let's go back to the restaurant.
She's good, man.
Yeah.
Is she still around there?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. She was here
what an epic
visiting
woman.
a month ago. Yeah, she lives in San Francisco now.
Wow.
So she takes me to Montecito, which is even more beautiful.
Yeah.
And she says, go into this restaurant, grab ask for application. So my application, they gave me a fee. The next one. And then I come back to the car and she's like, okay, I'll help you fill them out. I fill all these things and I go to one of the restaurants and I'm giving, and guy comes out. And I hear he has an accent and he comes and starts talking to me in English and I'm looking at him and he's like, in Spanish, in Spanish that we call Portuñol, it's like Spanish and Portuguese.
Right.
Which I, understood and I spoke because Brazil and Bolivia are very close to each other.
Right.
I lost a lot of Brazilian influence and I picked up Portuguese. So I see it. I'm like, he's like, you don't speak English, right? And I'm like, I don't. He's like, well, he's asked me questions, super nice guy. And he says, but you think you can clean tables and move stuff and you have experience, carrying trays and everything? I'm like, yeah, of course. And in Spanish, right? So he's like, okay, you need 2 pairs of black pants, 2 pairs of like blue shirt, this. Go and buy it. You can start tonight.
Wow.
I'm like, done. So my aunt takes me, buys me all the stuff in Ross. I come back and I start, dude, I couldn't hold the fucking tray.
Wow.
So now the other bus boys are looking at me. They're kind of pissed because they're doing most of the work and I'm like just there, but the manager liked me. So I need to catch up. So I started like learning and doing all these things. So I was doing that in the daytime. And at night, I was going to a ESL, English as Second Language school.
Wow.
For free across the street from an In-N-Out. That's how I got introduced to In-N-Out.
I love it.
And I was going with a lot of adult immigrants that didn't have money. And I was, going and learning English that way. And I think within 3 months, the other thing my aunt said is in 2 weeks, I'm going to stop speaking in Spanish with you. And you only can talk to your parents and your family once a week.
Wow. I want to meet this woman. I need to have a podcast.
She's awesome. Yeah. She's awesome.
She's awesome.
So I'm like, your house, your rules, right? But that got me to learn fast. So I was able to communicate in 3 months. And then I went to this.
Most of us will never know what that feels like. I'm learning
it was
French
exhausting.
and it's like a hobby.
It was exhausting.
To have no choice, to have everything be something you don't understand is unbelievable.
It was exhausting, right? Because the energy that you spend in your brain learning and, not speaking and all of a sudden, like you making an effort to understand because now she's speaking to me in English only. And I'm like going to the school and I'm working and it was a lot that I used to come back in the bus so tired that a few times I passed my stop. I went all the way to fucking Carpinteria. Asleep and woke up and I'm like, oh, I need to fucking take another bus to go another hour, right? So that happened to me because I was exhausted. But then I learned and I went to the manager. His name's Andre. And what's beautiful about life is that now he works for the agency.
Oh my God.
With the restaurant, got his license because he got inspired that I, learn the language. I worked there. He made me a waiter. I came to him and like, can you make me a waiter? I want to make a little bit more money and I can communicate with people. I can sell stuff. So he did. He gave me that opportunity. So then
how beautiful. That's the universe. And you're the master of that.
Yeah. So then I met my wife. I moved to LA. She was living in LA and I did the whole, I came to LA and I work in restaurants here. And then I got into real estate and I started doing good in real estate. I dropped the restaurant after 4.5 years, which is the amount of time that took me to start doing good in real estate. And I kept communication with him, right? I used to go to Santa Barbara, go to the restaurant and he saw that I was doing really good and he got inspired and he said, I think I want to get my real estate license. I'm like, go for it. But I never thought that he was actually going to move to LA. and wanting to work for me, right?
How long ago that happened?
That happened within a year.
Oh, wow.
And then he's like, would you hire me? And I'm like, of course, you did my first job here. Why wouldn't I? You know,
You're like, can you carry a tray?
So he came and worked. He works for the agency now.
That's so cool.
And that's how, the whole thing.
The other reason I wanted to have you on the podcast is because, it's called the circle of control, right? It's the tattoo I've got. It's a Stoic philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing, new or that I created, to say the least, but I've embraced it and owned it. And I think you are the ultimate example of it, because the circle of control is, if you focus on what you can control, your circle grows, your life gets greater and greater, right? When people focus on stuff that's outside their circle, all the things they can't affect, it's just this debilitating anxiety and weight that's so unnecessary. So for you to accomplish what you've had to accomplish, you must be, whether you identified it that way or not, you're like the master of the circle of control, because there's no way you could achieve all that if you were focused on all these other things you couldn't control. So talk about that. Like, how is that? And you're such a guy about energy. Feel free to blend it in. But how is that? What's your translation of the circle of control and how it's allowed you to thrive and grow and maybe some of the obstacles you come over with that?
Yeah. So, I would start by saying, like, thanks for calling me the master of circle of control, but I don't think anyone masters that, right? I don't think anything in life you get to a point where you master it and you never fail.
Okay, but like, stop right there. Like, that is something everybody needs to hear, because that's why you are who you are. Because in your mind, you're never stopping. It's like, and when people think all of a sudden think they got it, is when they start dropping.
Yeah, because I think, this is a Tony Robbins thing. One of the human needs that we have as humans is the need for certainty. So everybody feels like, oh, once I achieve this, I'm done, because I want that certainty. I don't want to have uncertainty anymore, which is a second human need. You can not have only certainty. You need some uncertainty. You need some adventure or not knowing or what the universe want to bring to me, right? Or who I'm going to meet or whatever. So once you learn that, it's like, you can be a master because you'll make mistakes, and if you make a mistake, doesn't mean that you're now bad at it. It's like, just get back on it, right? Like, get back on the horse. So, you learn this stuff, and goes a little deeper than that. It's not just, I stopped watching the news when my son was born, my first son, which is 17 now. And
thank God. I'm telling you, it's my biggest thing. I wish everybody would do that.
Yeah. It's been 17 years that I haven't watched the news.
Same here.
Yes, I see stuff. I read stuff that I want to know about it, but I'm not inundated with the news.
Well, I say too, you should take in what expands you.
Exactly.
There's things to read and learn that expands you, makes you better, makes you smarter. But if otherwise it's expiring information.
It started for me it was so negative, right? For people to wake up in the morning, get their coffee, and there's a TV on with all these, like, oh, this killing, this rape, blah, blah. How can you live like that, right? So for me, it was that the negativity that the news had, I was like, they focus too much on the negativity. Why don't they talking about the good stuff that's happening in the world? Yeah, because that's what sells, right? People have this, chemical reaction with bad stuff that, adrenaline. And you become addicted,
the brain
right?
is looking for it.
Exactly. So it started with that. And now I can say it's evolving to, like, I don't believe what they're telling me. I don't even know what they're telling me is what they want me to believe. So I'm going to do my own research. I'm not going to turn on the TV because I've seen it and there is proof now that is manipulated. So I don't want to buy into something that is not even real. Right? So I do my own research. I have my sources where I get my news and the things that I want to know. And that's how I live. Doesn't mean that everybody should do it, but we're talking about this control because
you're making a choice.
I can control what comes in my head, right?
And what source I get it from, and you have to be thoughtful about it.
Exactly. So, and that, evolve into, like, there's nothing you can do about an economic meltdown, crisis, a war. Nothing you can do substantially to change it as an individual, right? But there is stuff that you can do in your personal life to change and contribute. Maybe send some money to the war in Ukraine. Maybe do this or do that. That you can control. But then also with your personal life, what are the things you can control? I can wake up every morning and make a choice of not watch the news, meditate, go to the gym, jump in the cold plunge, eat healthy, go door knocking, work. Those are all my choices that I control. So I should just focus on the things that I can control, because I'm going to sit there and they get depressed by wanting to change the world or what's happening out there and how bad the economy is and the president they got elected is not who I wanted and all these things, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? So simple. I want to go one layer deeper is the only thing you have control over it is the way how you feel. Nothing that happens out. And I know this is a very, easy thing to say and very difficult to actually do until you get used to and you start learning and you habituate yourself, right? So you don't become a master, but you learn how to habituate your life on when your brain's going in this direction, you catch it. And first you're aware. Awareness is the first step, right?
Bravo.
Once you're aware, I'm having this thought. I'm going to stop for a second, think what it means, and I'm going to change it to another thought. Now you can control your emotions, Now your emotions and the way how you feel because you're driving on the street and you got somebody that honk and, flip you the bird at the corner, you can get upset about it. You can get all angry and answer back and, put more fire into that and go in that direction. Or can you just put some music and laugh and say, poor guy, he's having a hard time, and laugh and make fun out of it. So now, in the moment that you give control of your emotions to somebody else and you're a slave of everybody else.
I love that. The two things I just picked up that I'm going to keep that I love you said are, first of all, be a thought catcher. Like most people think once the thought starts, it's not in their control, but it is. I mean, your brain will go wild if you let it, but you need to be that thought catcher. I love the way you said that. And also don't let them take control of your emotions. That's the irony, right? People think, I'm standing up for myself or I'm, not letting this go, but they're actually owning you when they get the reaction.
Yeah.
And it hurts you and everyone around you.
You give away your power. You're giving it to everybody, right?
So I love that.
Yeah.
And, how do you deal with storytelling? I think most people, I find it comical, right? Because there actually is nothing but this right now, this moment, right? So to me, anything that is somebody's telling a story about the future of the past is really just has no value, in my opinion, because it's like just a story. You don't know what's going to happen. Even with this election stuff, whoever didn't want it. Let's let it play out. Like, why do we need to create the end of the world before it's happened? Right.
Exactly.
What is your kind of take on all that storytelling?
The only storytelling I like is the storytelling about in my business. What's the story that you're going to build in this house, you and your family?
Ooh,
right.
I like that.
Because we are, as a salespeople, storytellers. Right.
Bravo.
I mean, you can open a door and show how many bedrooms this and be a robot. Or you can open up.
By the way, don't you love that when an agent does that? Here's the bedroom. Here's the kitchen.
Right.
It's like, really?
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought that was the garage.
But if you walk in a house and you have knowledge of who's coming and you know that is a single person, a family or this, and you prepare yourself better, then you can tell this person a story of their lives, how they're going to be if they own this house, right? So I apply that into my business and telling the story of what the neighborhood's about, or what they're going to do and how they're going to feel, and like kind of like mention of what could happen here is a story. People like stories. People relate through stories a lot more than facts.
Well, even in a listing presentation, I always say a story is better than a spreadsheet.
Same. And your personal life.
I never bring numbers. I never bring that stuff because it doesn't resonate. You're right.
Yeah, that, can back up the information, but and when it comes to like future storyteller or past, the past is the memories of the past. It doesn't exist other than in the form of memories that, activate certain emotions, right? So your son was born and you remember that moment, the first time you hold him and he stops crying. And I every time I want to open up my heart, I think of moments like that.
Bravo.
Because it opens up your heart.
Well, I love that too. Using those, that's interesting. I'm sure that's what actors do so well, right? Is finding those portals through
your brain doesn't
memory.
know.
See, there you go. That's the way to use the past, is to create portals to new great things.
Exactly. You use the past and the positive things that happen in the past for you to activate good emotions and get in that state. Once you get in that state and your heart's open, now you can like focus on what you're doing or what you want, right?
That is brilliant, man. I love that. What are you most proud of overcoming? And what are you most excited to conquer?
My God.
By the way, I asked that because you're somebody who's just I've never seen you and not been re-inspired. That's rare. I love that because every time I see you, I can count on something new, something that you're, after. First, it was Tony Robbins. Then it was Joe Dispenza. Of course, you end up meeting all these people, which you could talk about that too. But So yeah. So if you could think of something, what would it be?
I mean, look, I mean, obviously, when you talk about what's your proudest moment and people relate to like what I achieved, right? What I achieved in life. And I could tell you, I'm an American dream. I came here with nothing and this and that. Yeah, I'm proud of that. That's beautiful. But, I think there's deeper things that I work on, right? On myself. I was in certain ways sometimes, I grew up with certain beliefs. I was programmed through society, through schools, through family. You get programmed into, this is what you do. Money doesn't grow on trees, and you need to be doing this. So first, before you get married, you should do this, this, and this, but you should do that. So all these become your beliefs because they get put into you, right? So for me, one of the biggest, I think, personal achievements that I'm proud of, and I'm not, again, a master on it, is to learn and be aware that a lot of stuff that ran in my brain, it wasn't real and it wasn't even mine.
Wow.
So I wanted to create my own beliefs, and obviously Tony Robbins helps you do that, right?
Yeah.
And I just came back. I was with my sons. I remember I went to Tony Robbins the first time here in LA in downtown 12 years ago. And I was so inspired by this man and so excited about it. And I remember my sons were like 5 and 3. And I was like, oh God, please let these men continue to be doing these events until my kids are old enough, because I really would love them to experience this.
And you just took them
at an earlier age than me, because when I went, I was like, how I didn't know this 10 years sooner, right? To learn this stuff. So I wanted to give that to my children as a gift. And I did. Like you said, I meet people and I ended up being a guest from Tony. He invited us to the first row.
Wow.
I took my sons in there and it was beautiful. We were there 2 weeks ago. I've seen them walking on fire, overcoming that fear and knowing that they have the power to get on stage and achieve stuff that they didn't think they could do, work on fire and stuff like that.
Wow.
It was amazing, right? So, but I learned through all these things that there was a lot of stuff in my brain that it was garbage, and it wasn't even my garbage.
What are some of those? Because I bet people will resonate with that.
There's a lot of stuff that was like, to be rich is difficult. You need to come from money to make money. You need to work in your dad's factory or whatever it is that in the society where I was, the people, they had a lot of money were people that the grandfather owned the factory of toilet papers and the son went to work for him. And
that's all they know.
My friend went and graduated and just got a job and he's the next to run it. And so that was something that was ingrained in me, that I work on it and I change it. And when I change it, you take action, and I took action. What was the action for me? Go door knocking. I'm going to make it happen, right? So I don't have that, but I'm going to create it because there are people that have done that, right? So I got inspired on the people that did it and create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do that. So, you get rid of that garbage. And if you can go deeper than that, and you can go a more spiritual level, and like you either carry stuff from your parents, from your school, from your society, from your culture, but you also can carry stuff from other lives.
Wow.
Right? Your spirit is carrying stuff that you have and beliefs from back then, and you come to this life to work on that so you don't have to come back again and reincarnate and have
very
to
Buddhist,
be the
right?
same.
Yeah, it's very Buddhist. I love that.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, we are all energy. We just are. And I feel like you're one of those, I work on this too. Like, you get to choose kind of what frequency you tune into, because it's just energy,
Right.
That's amazing. So what do you want to, what is something that you want to, that's still out there that you're like, God, I got to get this fixed or under control, or if you're comfortable talking about it?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I think that for me as a father, and I don't know how many, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people share this, but for me as a father, I have this control issue, right? You want them to do this and you should eat this and you should do that, because you're trying in the kindness of your heart to tell them what to do so they don't suffer, so they don't go through that, so they don't do this. And you just trying to fix their lives before they even started.
Bravo.
And it doesn't work that way, and it's very difficult to allow them to be who they need to be, because you want to guide them. And in the effort of wanting to guide them, you want to control them.
You're so right.
Right. So that's one of the things that, and the same happens with your significant other, and it just carries through all that.
Well, that's my big statement always is love them for who they are, not who you want them to be.
Right.
Yeah. At your wife in Miami, you didn't fall in love with her because she was going to comply with who you wanted her to be. You fell in love with her because she was exactly who she was.
Right. Yeah. And that's the other thing that, if people will let the significant other be themselves and love them for who they are and don't try to change them, right? Then you're good. Because if you get into a relationship, being like, okay, it's all good now. There's that little thing that bothers me about this person, but in 2 years, I'll fix it. Good luck.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you might be able to influence on this person to do that. But then that person is not, doesn't have the integrity of their soul. So they start compromising who they are to make you happy. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to become something that they're not supposed to be. That's going to end up fucking with you. And then it's not going to work because you try to change their nature, right? So
Beautifully said.
if you allow them to, there's got to be a certain level of like, I don't like that, but that's, that against everything else that is good. Okay, it's fine. And it's got to be both ways, right? So the control thing for me is been a lot of work.
Any hints for everybody else on what a few things you figured out that have helped? Like you said, being that thought catcher when you're ready to control, like, is there something that's worked for you to go like, all right, this is a reminder, I got to do this?
It's for me, I always connect with things like, for me, was like just like delegating at work. A lot of people have a very hard time doing that. I need to do everything. If I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. I need to send the email. And then, you can do everything, right? So it gets to a point where you need to trust on hiring an assistant that's going to do these tasks. And yeah, might make a mistake, might not make it the way you like it, but you can teach them to do it the way you like it. And it gets to a point where you just rely on them, right? But there's going to be margin of error and you should be okay with that. But when you learn how to trust others with your job, that's why I started to apply it to my personal life. It's like, I need to trust my son that he's going to drive okay. I need to trust that he's going to make good choices and he's going to make some bad choices, but that's part of life.
We'd always say, like, whether it's the son, the daughter, or the person at work, a 7 that they do themselves is better than a 10 you force.
Yeah.
Because they will get
that's beautiful.
Great leadership will naturally bring them to a 10. But if they don't get to do it because they're inspired, it'll never happen. If they do it because they're being controlled or micromanaged, same with the kids, right?
Right.
And I always say that's the ultimate example of leadership as a parent is just like letting go and having them go, I want to be like that, not I have to be like that, right? That's the difference. It's like, and I'm sure your kids see that and they aspire more than you even know.
Yeah, just be that, right?
Be that.
Means that,
the words are kind of worthless.
Kids are soaking up on all they see, they hear and everything. So they don't want to do what you tell them to do. They're gonna do what they see you do.
Dude, that's why I keep loving you. One of my favorite quotes is, I can't hear what you say because your actions speak so loudly.
Right.
I always say to other parents, like, and it's same with, people you work with too. What they hear goes in and out really quickly, but what they see sticks forever. There's a great story of a guy that took his kid to the movie theater and said, I need 2 adult tickets. And the ticket girl said, oh, you could have told me he was a kid. He's right on the edge. I would have never known it. And he goes, he would have.
Right.
And it's like those little moments where you're like,
little things that make a big difference, right? And you asked me like at what point is, and you look tattoos just like me.
Yeah.
In one of the, I went to a Joe Dispenza seminar.
Yeah.
Or retreat. There are no seminars. He calls them retreats in Colorado. And I remember walking in there and when he came out and he started speaking, I'm like loving everything is coming out of his mouth. And the 2 thoughts came out of my mind. One first was, I'm going to be friends with this guy. Literally.
But you do that. That is your natural method.
But it was,
it's like,
but that's the thing is like, you need to learn to hear your voice. And when you hear it, you need to act upon it, right? So I had that inside me. It's like, I want to be friends. I want to be friends with this guy. And then I found someone that worked for him and I gave him my card and I said, I want to talk to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I love everything he's doing. If there is anything that he's doing with children, I'd like to be involved. If there's anything I can do to contribute to what he wants to do, I'm in. Here's my card. 4 days after I came back from the retreat, I get a call from somebody. And it's like, you express interest in talking to Dr. Joe, blah, 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 blah. He can get on a Zoom call with you for 20 minutes on Thursday afternoon. I'm like,
wow. Only you 4 days from, I think I'll do this to it's done.
Yeah. So then I go and I get in the Zoom call but also you need to be smart about it, right? Because yes, you you manifest, you think, you visualize, you do all these things, but you also need to take action, right? So what was the action for me? I gave him a card, right, to someone, trusting that that person's not going to throw it away.
Right.
The other one is I needed to figure a way how he will remember me. So when I saw him, he's talking, and he was, I was telling my mind we're going to be friends. He made eye contact, and I went, one-on-one.
I
He's
love it.
like, he's looking at his lecture, right? He's like,
Nobody does
the
that.
second day, the same thing. I was like, so he remembered that. So when we got a Zoom call, I said, hello, Dr. Joe, how are you? Thank you for doing this. I don't know if you remember. He's like, I do remember you. You're the crazy guy that thinks I'm going to have time to do a one-on-one at my event. I'm like, great. So we start talking, and he starts telling me all this stuff, and we connect really good. And he says, what are you doing on Friday afternoon? I said, you tell me what I'm doing. He's like, I want you to come to San Diego, and I want you to show you my research. And I'm like, done. So I went down there, then we went to dinner, and we became good friends.
Wow.
Right? But one of the other thing that I saw there is beautiful image that he had in the back of the stage,
Right.
of this human, image that is like looking up, and it's just,
Yeah, it's even on the cover of the book or the back of the book.
exactly,
Isn't it? I love
amazing,
that.
right?
That's
So
energy. It's just energy.
So I call him, and I'm like, who is the artist that did this?
Right.
Can you share with me? Because I love that. I want to buy that piece. I have it in my house. So he gives me the names. There's Mikhail Aubrey, amazing guy. I love the guy. So I connect with him. I meet with him, and I'm like, I like that piece, and I want you to make it this size, big one. I want to have it in the stairs going up and down my house so I can see it all the time. So he said, I'm not a commissioner for you. I'll do it, blah, 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 blah. And he says, do you know what that piece is called? And I said, no, it's called Surrender. And I'm like, I love it even more, right?
Wow.
Because I was at that point in my life where I was working on it, and I wanted to learn how to surrender, and just surrender to what it is, surrender to love, surrender to heartaches, surrender to everything. Just surrender and let things be. Don't fight it, right? So I went so much into it that I called the artist, and I said, look, I know that piece, if there's any way that you can do that piece for my tattoo artist, so I can get a tattoo.
Wow. Do you have it?
Yes, here.
Oh, wow. I love it. Yeah, that's exactly it. I remember that.
Yeah.
I love the fine line and the
It's
fading.
all
It's great.
one single, dot thing.
That's amazing.
So he made it in a way that you can tattoo it, because with the ink is different.
Yeah, I bet.
And so now I remember, right? Now I look at myself, and
Well, that's what I say. Most of my
things.
tattoos are more fati,
Yeah.
way, the circle. That's what it is. It's like, it's literally like,
Relax.
I love it. Relax. That's what we need. So here's one for you that only you could probably have great thoughts on. What is your feeling about, I hold these two concepts at the same time, which seem like a contradiction. You don't control anything. Life happens. What you control is how you react. But on the same token, I totally believe in manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do those two things, or what is your take on those two things? Can they coexist, or how does that work for you?
The way I like to look at it is, if you're walking in a road, right? And you're walking in a path that sometimes is clear and sometimes is not, right? What are the things I can control? Maybe I can bring a machete. I can bring a flashlight. It's going to help me to open up the road when I don't see it. And then I'll walk fine when I see it. That's controllable. But for me to go there and look when the road disappears, right? And get affected by it, and try to say why they didn't give me the clear road. I wanted one that I can go from A to B.
Right.
Trying to change that is one you're not able to do.
It's outside your control.
Right? So can I wake up in the morning and choose what I'm going to put in my mouth to be healthier? Yes. Can I exercise? Can I?
But how about manifesting? Like, those are actual actions. But do you believe, I'm setting you up because I think you believe it, but maybe you change your, change. Do you believe that you can say, just like you did, I'm going to meet Joe? Yes, the actions have to follow.
Yeah.
But do you believe that you can manifest a reality, but at the same time, we really don't control what happens?
100%. I believe that you can manifest anything you want, right? But it might not be exactly how you imagine it, because God has an amazing way to give you what you need, not what you want. And the moment that you understand that that's happening, then it's much easier.
My wife says it all the time. It's what you need, not what you want.
Yeah.
She controls it. So Anything else that you, I have one last real estate question for you because anyone watching is probably always going to be intrigued by real estate. But before I wrap it up with that, anything that you want to share? You always have something deep and new to share. Like, what is the thing you believe in so much these days that you wish you could just sprinkle it on everybody and have everybody start absorbing that?
Yeah, so I can share personal experience. The last 3-4 years, I've gone through some challenges. I went through a divorce and went to this, the economy changed and this and that. So I went through a process of spiritual growth and going back to controlling or not, I felt like between the market slowing down and all these things happening, I kind of lost a little bit my groove of killing it in real estate, right? Which it happens, you know.
You have
good years, you have bad years,
yeah.
good years, you have bad years, and I had an amazing run, and I got to the point, number 6, number 5, all these things, and then all of a sudden, last year wasn't a great year.
It's such a right call, isn't it?
But you see, like people would think, like, oh, once you get to that level, yes, true, like I did well, right? I mean, I sold 300, not 600, right?
That's 300 million, by the way.
But the point I want to make is everybody falls, and you fall and you think you lost your magic. You think like, oh, that was it. And I'm speaking for myself. I was like, well, what happened? Like, what is it? And then you start comparing yourself with other people. And the one I want to tell you right now and everybody that's listening is like, the moment you start comparing yourself with, the only time that you can compare yourself in a positive way is say, if there is 5 people in this business that are actually selling houses, there's no reason why I shouldn't be selling houses, right? I don't care about the economy. I don't care about anything else. Someone is making a sale, I can make a sale.
Make your weather, baby.
That's it. But, the moment that you understand that it's okay to fall, it's okay not to do well, and you stop comparing yourself with others. The only person in competition is a positive, right? And that's when a lot of these things become confusing. It's like, you need to be competitive,
right?
But don't compete with others. It's like confusing. It's like, what are you talking about? So
well, competing and comparing is different.
Exactly.
You can compete, but you don't have to feel less than. I would say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Like you inspire me, but I don't feel less than because you do more business. I feel inspired.
Right.
That's competitive versus comparing.
So what I've learned is stop comparing yourself with others. Like you need to compete with yourself. And you just need to be, for me, I was like, okay, I was in this place. The last 2 years, I went to this place. I want to compete with the guy that was in that place before, and I want to be better than last year.
That's brilliant.
Right?
I love that.
And that takes a lot of pressure, right? Because now I don't need to be thinking about who's what or what they're doing and this and that because I cannot control that. But now I'm like, okay, this is what I want to go back. I want to compete. I want to beat myself next year compared to this year.
That is brilliant.
I just want to do a little better next year. I want to do a little better. So
I freaking love that. Thank you for that honesty. And that's powerful for everyone to hear. And I always say like, there's no expiration date on dreams.
No.
When people like have this like defeated energy or which is human again, but like, why are you putting a date on it? Like, right? Life is a long, awesome journey. It's not for me to decide whether this 3 years, 5 years, 7 years will be the best, the worst, or mixed. As long as you wake up every day doing what you can do, the best you can do it, putting it out there, and then reacting well to what comes in.
Yeah, I feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to be having dinner, and I'm going to be feeling shitty.
Yeah.
No. Go out there and ask yourself this question, which I said many times. Well, at the end of the day, you ask yourself a question. If I am the CEO of my life, would I hire somebody else to do a better job today? I did the best I could. And when you go back home, feel like, okay, I made all the calls. I don't care if it's 100 calls or 2 calls, but you gave your 100%, right? Door knock, whatever it is that you do to generate business, emails, calls, whatever you did, make sure that you know inside yourself whether you could have done a little better or not. And you should go back home feeling that you did 100%, and that's the only thing you can control. And when you go home and have a nice dinner and you release it to the universe, you release it to God, knowing that I did my part, it's going to correspond.
Love it. It is so right on. I always say, when I go to bed at night, every night, I fall asleep next to it. I sleep like a baby because of what you just said. I've put it all out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm succeeding.
Yeah.
We've had a rough year too. Like real estate's been all over the place. That's the thing, right? People think, oh, real estate. If they only knew like
Right.
the swings and what you have to
Yeah.
deal with. I mean, every business has its challenges, but like you said, if I can put my head on the pillow and go, I put it all out there. That's what I've done with my restaurants, TV shows. It's like, it's okay if it doesn't work out because there's nothing more at least that I know that I could have done, All right. So to wrap it up, you're an amazing dude, man. This when I think I would get more inspired. I get more inspired. I appreciate you so much. How about real estate? For those who just love the idea of these big sales, you've got your show Selling Beverly Hills on Netflix, right?
Buying Beverly Hills.
Buying Beverly Hills on Netflix, which is so cool. And I love that about you too, because I know, and you meant this, you weren't just saying it out of jealousy like some people. I remember years ago, we were having lunch, hanging out. You're like, whatever, my goal was not a TV show, but that's what I love about you is like, it just happened, but it wasn't like you had to have it. So,
Right. No, it was offered before in the past.
You were just like, whatever.
It wasn't a place where I needed to do it. And, like everything changes. And that's why you cannot be so rigid on something.
Yeah.
I might have said things 5 years ago that now I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well,
You're evolving.
Adapt, baby.
Yeah.
I love it. So what is happening in real estate for you? I mean, a 10 million plus market or whatever. What's going on?
Real estate is
Los
great.
Angeles.
I am super fired up. I'm going full force right now. I just signed about 160 million in listings in the last 10 days.
160
They're going to start coming up.
So for you, is that 5 listings or 7?
That's 5 or 6, I think. Yeah. So a lot of them are like, I have 1, 2, 3 in the Palisades, 26, 24.5, and 26.
Dude, I swear your Stradella one is my favorite house I've ever been
That's so
in.
beautiful, that house, right?
I love that house. Wow. So good for you. So 160 million,
I have some things in Brentwood coming up. I have my own development that's going to be ready in March.
Oh, you did something for yourself?
No, nice. I'm doing for spec. I build houses. I have a, development company that I do high-end spec homes.
Something new. Where's that one going to be?
On Tigertail.
Nice.
I built 4 houses on Tigertail.
What did you sold to LeBron?
4. Yeah, I built the house that I sold to LeBron.
Right. I didn't realize
you built that one. I built that one, yeah.
Good for you.
And then I built one across the street that I sold to the Harris of the guy that owns Formula One, Petra Eccleston.
Wow.
She sold, Candy Spelling's the manor and bought that house. She just sold it again, actually, for a lot of money to Russell Westbrook.
Wow.
And now I'm building a house a block below those 2. That's going to be my best so far. So I'm excited about that. That'll come in the market in April next year.
Congrats, my friend. Well, I can say
keep him busy.
Everybody listening has to be inspired. You've done us all justice. I appreciate you, man.
Of course. No, thanks. I love being here.
Lunchtime.
Let's do it.